Hello computer graphics students, this is Professor Homa once again. This is part 2 of anchor points, and last time we learned to just select anchor points, identify anchor points. Today we're going to be converting anchor points, and I'm going to start with my circle that I created last time. I have a 6-inch circle in the middle of my page, and I'm seeing the bounding box right now, which means I have it selected with my selection tool. Remember from last time, we're going to use the direct selection tool, the white arrow, and I can now see the anchor points. I have 4 anchor points. Also, before I do anything else, I'm going to go over as long as I'm over by my toolbar, I'm going to go where I see my pen tool, which is the third one down on the left side next to the text tool, and I'm going to hold down on that little black triangle, and I'm going to hold down, and this is where you typically see the other tools underneath it that you can access, but instead of always having to hold down that button to get other tools, I'm going to go to the right side of this palette, and then where it says tear off and leave go, and it creates a little tear off palette. So I can now have these tools in their own little palette that I can access a lot more quickly than going back to the toolbar and holding down and finding each one at a time. So these tools here, which is the pen tool, we're not going to use right now. The add anchor point tool, which we may use, the delete anchor point tool, which we may use at some point, but mainly this convert tool is the one we're going to focus on using. So this convert tool and the direct selection tool are the ones we're going to use. So back to this, I'm going to go back to my direct selection tool. Back to the circle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start manipulating this and turning this into a heart shape. So what I'm going to do, I have all my anchor points selected. I'm going to click off and then click on again, and you can see these are curve points. They have handles that work like a seesaw. You should remember that from last time. And I'm going to take this anchor point. Notice none of the others are selected right now, so this is the only anchor point selected. I'm going to drag it about halfway down from where the center of the circle was, and just kind of like squash it, just so it gets a little squashed down on the top. It has a little dip in it. Then I'm going to grab this bottom anchor point, and I'm going to move it about the same distance down, about twice the amount of its original width, or it's half of its width, and kind of turn it into a little, I'll scroll up a little, kind of a alien head type shape I have here. And now again, these are still all curve points, and we're going to be doing some conversions into different kind of points. The first one I'm going to do is I'm going to take this anchor point down here, which is a curve point, works like a seesaw. I'll scroll up a little so it's closer to everything we're doing here. It works like a seesaw. So that's a curve point. It creates a smooth transition from this line segment to that line segment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to convert it to a corner point. And so far we mentioned a corner point has no handles. Now it doesn't only have no handles. It can have handles that work independently. But for now, since that's what we focused on, I'm going to remove the handles. I'm going to take my convert tool, this one right here, which looks like a kind of a carrot or a wedge or an arrow. That's my convert anchor point tool. I'm going to select that tool, and I'm only going to use it for this one operation. I'm going to click directly on the point, and it'll suck in the handles and turn that into a corner point. Now it's a corner point. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to go back to my direct selection tool. I'm going to pull this down a little bit more, and I'm going to try to turn this into a heart shape. And you can kind of see it's kind of a squashed heart right now, but if I drag a handle up in kind of a counterclockwise motion, I turn that one side up, and then that one side is starting to look like a normal heart shape. Unfortunately, the other side's going down because it's a curve point. When one handle goes up, the other goes down. It's creating this kind of dip shape. Now, to drag this one up, the other goes down. So what I have to do is disengage one handle from the other. And doing that actually creates the third type of way the point can look. It's still going to be a corner point. We're going to convert it to a corner point, except it's going to be a corner point with handles. And that just means that when the handles act independently, it'll be a corner point. There'll be a sharp change of direction. Right now, there's a smooth transition between line segments. When we do this, when I take my convert tool, grab this handle, and I'm just going to move it clockwise and move it to like it's a V shape, so it's kind of symmetrical with the other handle, and leave go. And then once I'm done converting, don't do anything else, because it'll try converting back again. So once you're done converting, you're good. Once you move that handle, it's now a corner point. You could use your direct selection tool. Now I can move this anchor point. I could adjust these handles to adjust the shape of the arcs a little bit. If you notice, one handle controls one side of the arc, the other handle controls the other side of the arc. Same thing down here, except you have to watch, because when you're working with one, the other's moving too. So You have to kind of be looking forward and looking backwards when you edit these. So I can move them. These handles pull out so they get long or they get shorter. The longer they are, the steeper the slope it is. The shorter they are, the shallower the curve is. But you can manipulate these now. And what I have are curve point, corner point with no handles, curve point, seesaw, and this is a corner point. This is a corner point because the handles work independently. That's the other way a corner point can be. A corner point can have no handles, or a corner point can have handles that work independently. And I'm going to stop there, and then we'll move on and do some other things with this shape.